Okay. We live right now? Yeah, look at we got folks logged in. Okay. All right. In an effort to not stare down at this screen the entire time, I'm gonna kind of turn myself a little bit if that's okay. So good morning, everybody. Alex Magana, the Development Center Manager for the City of Fayetteville. Appreciate you taking the time today. Join us. No, I think somebody's calling out here. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, for everybody here, thank you all for stopping by. Open to questions, and that's going to be open to the participants that are online as well. I'm going to start off with some slides here. There's some brochures going around. I'll bring those up and their location here on the portal as well for you. So it's going to be located on our city website. We have a dedicated space now for several different resources that are going to answer a lot of the questions that you might have, and then also is a opportunity for you to share that with the community. So myself, and then along with me today, you could take a walk up here real quick. One of our permit technicians, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jinsari Reyes. I'm a permitting tech at the City of Fayetteville Development Center. You didn't hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm Jinsari Reyes. I'm a permitting tech at the City of Fayetteville Development Services.
Great. Thank you. So this is it's opportunity for us to, kind of put out some information that we have, the systems that we use, some expectations, and then for y'all to have opportunity to ask some questions as well. So we go ahead and jump right into the slides now. Okay, here's what we're going to be covering. The agenda, as you can see, we'll go through some training resources, the FayWorks permit search, next request, IDT project page overview, frequently requested information, and then we have a submittal walkthrough in here as well. And then kind of we're going to cover some of the education that we're doing with the public and what what we can do to work together in the future if it comes down to I want a different type of training or some additional information. So that's open to anybody. We do training also by request over the city of Fayetteville. We can set that up for your organization, for potentially clients that you're working with. We do that with a lot of construction companies as well. Just get them familiar on our process and how it is that they can navigate the system and use it more efficiently. Okay, so the IDT training resources. For those that are here right now, I'm gonna kind of entertain the conversation like this. Y'all familiar with the e-development portal that we have and how you would go through for pulling permits? Okay, great. So mixed bag, and we'll go through the website. I'll show you, and what we can potentially do too is when it's up, once you have the link, go ahead and get registered and all that stuff. The account's completely free and something that we can kind of talk through and answer questions as they come in. Okay, so the website itself, the e-development portal, there's very few functions that you need, and it's like a requirement to get started. Some of the stuff that we have built into the video resource library, we try to keep them short. So we're talking about within 30 to 1 minute in the interest of your time, and get straight to the point of what we're trying to do here. So what we start with is going to be a project taskbar overview. This is going to give you an idea of all the functions that we have off of what we refer to as a project toolbar. And that's going to be on the left-hand side. I'm going to get into that and cover that as well. But there's a video that covers that in the resources for us. Project search functions. That's a big one for realtors. A lot of times what ends up happening is that we'll get a records request, public records request. With the new system, the e-development portal, the entire intent is for you to have access and visibility almost identically to what I have as a system administrator. So within the project search function, if I know the address and I know the time frame, because that's gonna be two big things, right? So it's either I'm searching by address or I'm searching by a project number. And we say project number because that is going to take you directly to the project that you're searching for. So the type of work that happened that under that, let's say specific trade or that address. So the project search function is going to do that for you, and that's going to allow you to, check yourself to see if there is any permits on a property that you're trying to list. And for this training, I'm trying to keep it very specific to what I see a lot of the times from realtors. So a lot of the questions that end up coming through on, is this property permitted? I'm trying to do, so let's talk about the appraiser side. I'm trying to do an appraisal, and I'm trying to find out if there was a permit that was pulled for this back in, let's say 2015, 2016. I'm using those dates specifically because the resources that we have and the records that we have online, they're going to date back to 2015 for a digital record. Record retention is going to be about half of that. So looking at about 7 years for record retention on what we're required to have, and that's per the state, North Carolina general statute. So in our case, we have what we refer to as CityWorks, and then the public's access to that system as FayWorks. If you're registered for an account under FayWorks, it's free. And what you can do is, based on the address, let's say that you're looking to either purchase or sell. Under FayWorks, if you have a registered account, just search that address and it's going to pull up all permitting records that we have in that system. And it's the same exact basically execution that I'm going to do on the record search. And that just puts it in your hands now. So it's in the best interest of your time. Now, the records, again, that's back to about 2015 that we're going to see records in that system. And that's going to go all the way through to 2022 when we launch this new e-development portal that I'm going to go over with y'all here shortly. So that's two important dates there. The e-development portal itself is going to be a lot more transparent. It's open to the public. It's set up that way by staff intentionally so that all the information is out there and there's less questions about the overall project. Now we're going to go into, under the e-development portal as well, the ability to invite contacts to projects, document uploads and post approvals, and then a site plan tutorial that's in there. That site plan tutorial is very important for specifically like the zoning side of things, right? But let's say that a client is putting in a new fence, or they're doing an addition, or they're putting in ADU on the property. So there's a requirement then that a site plan is created. And what that gives our zoning officials is clarity on where exactly that is going on the property. So if there's any questions about the zoning aspect of things, and I'm putting this out to realtors now so that they know when working with clients, and then for future advisement, is that if there's any zoning questions at all prior to making this addition or placing a fence so that you're not encroaching on a neighbor's property, or you're within the required setbacks for that specific zoning, contact us down at the city. We'll put out some information here on how to directly get in contact with us so that we put you in contact with the right folks, right? So there's different requirements depending on what the scope of work is. So there's never really a true yes or no answer. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Okay, so this is the FayWorks permit search that I mentioned before. So system projects prior to 2022, that's when we went live with the new e-development portal that's currently in use. What you can do under this one is going to be that check permit status, check for last inspection, and then check for a pass or fail result. The other thing that you're going to see in there too, if it didn't receive a pass or fail, is because an inspection wasn't requested. If that inspection wasn't requested within that 6-month period that the permit was for, then it's going to show an expiration. It's going to be expired in the system. If there was an inspection that was previously requested, so let's say within that 6-month time period when that permit was active, that last date of inspection is going to extend that permit for 1 year from that last date of inspection. So there's some important things to know there as we move forward, and that's standard across the rest of the discussions that we're going to have here. Okay, next request. Anybody here familiar with next request? No? Okay.
why I'm here.
Yeah, no, that's completely great, and that's why I'm here. So that's the other side of it. Okay, so for next request, this is one that we end up sending the public to, and this is from business owners to realtors to law firms. This is going to be the system that you're going to request public records on, right? So let's say that I'm doing a sale. I'm putting myself in your position now, right? So I'm doing a sale on a property, and I want to know if there was permits in 2018 on this property prior to putting a listing together to verify that it was actually permitted work, and it's not going to be an issue.
Can I get a range more than a year? Like, can I say from 2015 to now?
You can. So there's if you're specific with the property, it kind of helps out, right? So like the more specific that you can get, then the more accurate that we can get on our end too for the project. Because a lot of times some of these projects, like I'm going to use City Hall as an example, right? So one of these big spaces, because we're talking about now the residential and then commercial realtors. So if you're talking about a space like that or a commercial space, the amount of permits are going to be huge, right? So if you're talking about, I want to see everything from 2015 to 2025, there might be hundreds of documents in there. So if it's specific to, let's say, an addition, because that's the one that I do see pretty commonly within residential, is there was an addition verifying now if there was a permittable for that. There's another example is going to be pools. The fences come up a lot of the times is they put them up as a flip, and come to find out afterwards they didn't end up doing a zoning permit for compliance and ended up building on the neighbor's property, or in certain cases building on city property. So so one of those things to check. But as far as the next request goes, that's going to be the public record request there. Okay. We talked about that 2015 timeline, county tax administrative records for miscellaneous improvements. Okay, so the Cumberland County GIS map, do y'all use that at all? Are you familiar with that? Okay, so within that map, you can go there, check with the tax records to see if there was or not any additions to the property and what they currently have on there. At the end of every single week, for every project that we have that's either receives a certificate of occupancy or a certificate of compliance, we're sending that over to county tax record office, and they're making those updates in their system to show the new additions, or if there's there's been permanent work on it. And so that's going to end up impacting then the property value. And so you can check the county record for that. Now that we're talking about the county map, one of the other things is going to be to check and verify that it's actually within the city. So that's another one that we end up getting, is records come in through next request and they're asking about a property. Yes, it says Fayetteville, NC on that address, but we have to verify that it's within our planning jurisdiction. So if it's let's say let's say Fayetteville, NC, and we get that request pulled in and we go straight to the map and check it. I'm basically just giving you an example of what I'm doing if I see it. So I'm checking that address, putting it into the county map there. It's going to give us an overlay, and it's going to give you the planning jurisdictions. So if it's not in the city of Fayetteville, hey, sorry, this requested information doesn't have to be pulled from Cumberland County. And so that's it just saves you a little bit of time every single one of these, and that then accumulates to what could potentially be hours or days on your end when you're looking at a time of closing within the next 2 days, day, week. You put the timeline on it. But there's some information there for clarity on our end. Okay, so there's been some updates that have occurred, and it's everything here that we do, we try to take in the feedback that the public is providing. So residents within the community, business owners in the community, taking that into consideration. There's several different satisfaction surveys that we're running. A lot of them are tied to final inspections as an example. So there's your project, it's complete. Let us know about the process so that we can continue to update that. That's all led to a currently contracted scope of work that's going to change the system in a way that benefits more particularly the public than it will staff. It won't change too much on our end, but what you will see is there's going to be an update of all digital applications, digital signatures for all contractors, subcontractors. We're looking at contractor dashboards now, and that's in effect to eliminate the single email issue that goes out, right? So you receive an email, it gets flooded along with all the hundreds of thousands of other ones that you get, and you just never saw it. So not going to move forward from that and say, you know what, the email was sent out, but what can we do on our end? And that's what we're looking to do with this current update that's coming within the new year here. So currently under development. But here are some of the things that have changed and within the main page of the website there. Okay, now I kind of preface with what is to come, but in this case, you can kind of read through that as well. Project owner dashboard, and that's going to be not specific to the contractors on their end, but what we have done that sets the system apart from several others across the nation, and we do have that open discussion within the permanent association, and then the builder association and everything to have that discussion about, hey, look, what are y'all doing? What's working well, and what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing? And taking that into consideration for what it is that we're doing moving forward. So the system itself, we've set it up so there's a commercial and then residential plan review. What that allows the project owner to do is keep everything contained to one project. So instead of what several other systems are doing, I'm going to create this main review and this main building permit, and then I'm going to create everything separately. So I'm going to create a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and it's all going to be separate, which means that I'm going to have to go through and find every single one of these and track them separately. What we've done in turn is said, hey, look, here's your residential plan review, which is then associated with your building permit. What we're allowing you to do is invite all of your subcontractors in so that it's all contained in one project. On that same dashboard page, what you're seeing is I got my mechanical, electrical, and my plumbing permits all on here. I've got all their inspections on here. So it makes it easier for that project owner to be able to review what it is that they currently have in there, and then the status along the way. So that's going to also track all email correspondence, last inspection dates, and I'm going to pull up a project and we'll get into that as well. But it's transparency on your end and peace of mind as a project owner. That's ultimately what we aim to do with this. Okay, so the project page overview. A project on our project dashboard. So we have our taskbar features. We'll go over the document folder reviews, project actions within a project invite. That's what I just mentioned about trying to invite your subcontractors directly to that project. So it's all contained. Project tracking and projects I'm tracking. That's gonna be a big one. And I'm going to get into that as soon as I pull the website up. But for project tracking, if you want to make note of that one, that's gonna be a big one. So let's say I'm doing a renovation on a home, and let's put it this way. Let's put it in your case. You're tracking the renovation of a home because that's something that's coming up and you're putting it up and it's a listing that's coming, and you want to keep up on the status of that. Well, there's nothing precluding you from being invited to that project by that project owner. So if the seller is doing all these renovations to get it prepped, and that they have open permits in the system, they could directly invite you in, and you can kind of take a look at it too, to be able to track and help them with the information that now. So there's the ability to do that. For projects I'm tracking off of the projects actions, what that's gonna do is it's going to give you status updates on anything that's submitted, changes within the permitting, inspections, and so that's a good one that I think is kind of underutilized. But we're making that known to everybody so that they can go ahead and set it up. Project I'm tracking. Once you're done tracking it, taking it off that list, and you can have a condensed list that's always projects that you're currently working. Okay, project search function, we talked about that some as well. Okay, types of project categories. This is what we have to offer on the system right now. So again, on our end, myself, Jansari here, we're looking at commercial and residential building permits. So that then includes all of our trades. Fire has their section here, planning and zoning. One of the big things for planning and zoning, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the commercial and residential building, is that there's those requirements for them to verify. Let's say that your project is a shed, or you're doing a shed. Well, depending on the size of it, it might not require a building permit, but it might still require a zoning compliance permit just so that you can place it where you say you're going to place it, and you're not placing it on your neighbor's property. And then your public services on there. So the best example of that one is going to be let's talk about a occupancy classification change that needs to happen on a commercial building. Well, there's going to be several different departments that are included within the review cycle for that plan review. But in their case, if we're looking at a change, let's talk about the classifications for a second, right? So you're currently classified as a mercantile business under your commercial property. If you're switching then from that commercial to then a business, or no, your mercantile to a business classification, then we're looking at potentially, external parties that are involved, and specifically looking at NCDOT. So you start to include the roadways and whether or not there's a requirement for then sidewalks. But something to keep in mind too. The more you know, I think the more that you can help out and educate the rest of the community as well. So next one. Okay, so project invitations. Who needs to be included in that? So applicant invites the members themselves. The city staff, we're not doing that because that takes us out of it, right? So somebody calls us and says, "Hey, I need to be invited to this project." We're like, well, that's a project owner that is supposed to be inviting you, and we understand circumstances a lot of times. So if the scenario checks out, then we do what we can on our end to assist in any way possible. But that's standard how that's supposed to work. So contact through email function only. We put that on there as one of the important notes. So if it's not going through email, we end up seeing a lot of time is that there's a comment section within the portal. What's important to know about that is that that staff's not getting the active notification to say that you've responded to a comment. So if it's within the review cycle, they'll get notification, but a standard comment, they just won't. So we say, make sure it's put in email, because one of the big parts of transparency under the system is that everything is tracked and time stamped. So that's to say you're looking through emails. The last time that we were in contact was, today at 10:00 a.m. and it's going to show it clearly on there. So that there's no ambiguity of when something last happened. Comments and general notes, they will not notify staff, as we're talking about there. Covered the start project tracking function, and that's just giving you notifications of the project as it rolls along. Okay, some notes here for project inspections. So the general overview here. One of the important things to know, and this is just general information. You can take a screenshot of that if you want to for the information, and I'll pause for a second there. I won't get too much into that, but this is specifically tied to then the inspections. At the very last note there, work without a permit will be charged at twice the assessed fee for per trade. A lot of times, if you don't know what's required for a permit, there's a brochure, and it's going to be handed out right there to assist within that process. And that's going to give you a simple yes, no, and then the maybe situation, because there's, depending on what the dimensions are, let's talk about it. It's an easy one to reference. So if you're doing, a shed, what's required? Well, if you look at it, it's a certain size. So anything 12, let's put it that way. So 12 foot or more is going to require a building. Below that, though, you're talking about the zoning compliance again. So it gives you those different scenarios, some of the different scenarios, and it can't be all inclusive because, we try to keep that as condensed as possible. But if there are any questions, there is our contact information on the back of every single one of those brochures, and some important information there as well. Okay. Cycle review tracking. On this one, this is basically giving you an idea of what it looks like for after submittal. So the different review entities that need to review your project. So different divisions basically is the way it works at working out in our case. So you'll have generally building, zoning, public services if they're required. But our plans examiners are who's really looking at your project. And you'll be in communication with them. Any issues that need correcting, they're going to give you exactly what needs to be corrected. And then a lot of times they're just going to give you straight the code, and it's going to be the clearest way they can provide that for you. If there's any confusion, feel free to send emails, and they'll follow up with those as much as possible. For transparency on our end, we have 2 plans examiners. So at any point, you have 2 plans examiners reviewing hundreds of projects. So we just ask you to be patient with them. I think everybody, can kind of relate to being short-staffed, and that being the case, we do exceed expectations of not only the state, but also recent recognition of the UNC School of Government for inspection timeline requests and completion. So within the state of North Carolina, recently the city of Fayetteville recognized for inspection completions. So I feel like we're doing all right on the right track. And if we receive that email or phone call, always willing to put the things that we currently have in place aside to assist you directly that way too. So it's just some information here on review tracking. But keep it email, and then that way there's a record of everything, right? I would want that in my case. I'm sure you want that too. Okay. So cycle review tracking is a kind of continuation of the last one. Here's an idea of what you can expect, fire, stormwater, traffic services for some of these projects. For us, I'm under development services, and Jinsari is there with us as well, so our permit technicians. But it depends on what type of permit you're looking for, right? So if you're doing a fire permit, we're not seeing those, and so that's going to be a different review cycle that you're going through. Same thing with some of those public service permits that they have in there as well. So just something to kind of note for yourself. Okay, and then here we talked about that state mandated plan review timeline of the 45-day commercial and then 15-day residential for plan review requirements. So after everything gets submitted and it's gone through its plan review, and let's say you're approved, as soon as that approval ends up happening and we receive your permit application, that application is then being sent over to the permit technicians for processing. As soon as that gets sent over to the permit technicians, we can see what we strive to do is, if it's early enough in the day, your permit's going to be processed within that same day. If it's later in the evening that we receive it, we have everything already scheduled, and that's going to be for the following morning. So as soon as permit technicians get in that morning, it's straight to processing everything. So if you didn't get processed the day that you were approved, we're looking at you that next morning, and it'll be processed that next day. So as far as the permitting side of things go, that's what the process is and how quickly we turn those over. We're looking at, on a daily basis, we're averaging about 60 to 70 permits that once approved, we're processing and issuing for payment. And that does include a semi-plan plan review, because on our end, for the permitting side, right? So there's certain requirements, and this is where I'm going to ask Jinsari to come up and kind of talk about what it is that we review when it comes to the permit itself.
Alright. You guys want to cover this or?
Yeah.
Okay. So, please make sure that the permit applications are filled out completely. If not filled out completely and accurately, this could delay the process. And I have a perfect example. Somebody needed, a mechanical, permit to be processed, but they only sent the second page. So I sent an email, but the actual contractor had people in his office doing that work. So it delayed him for a while, 4 or 5 days, and it was something that needed to be taken care of, but we were missing pages. So make sure that if you have you're not submitting the permit yourself, whoever is submitting that permit, it's a complete application. Front page, second page, qualifier information needs to be there, licensing. We do verify the license. We do check and make sure that it's active. And we do make sure that whoever signed the application is the qualifier on the North Carolina Licensing Board for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Homeowners, please make sure that any projects 40,000 or more needs an owner affidavit and needs to be notarized and uploaded with the permit application. Any building project under 40,000 do not need an owner's affidavit, but if you're pulling the trade permits, you will need an owner affidavit. So you can, if it's less than 40,000, you can do it, but if it's any trades, then you do need contractors for that.
If it's- If it's
Less than 40,000.
the second one, it's any trades.
Oh, yeah, the trades like the electrical, plumbing, and any mechanical, you do need contractors for that.
Sorry, with the 40,000, as an owner, can I pull them, do I have to add it all up? Or can I pull them separately as long as they're less than 40,000?
So let's talk about the work that you're doing on the entire project, right? So if you're saying that I'm doing this project right now and it's exclusively, let's say, you're working on.
So it's by the project.
Yeah, if I.
Not the individual electric structural.
Yeah, so you're doing it, so let's say by the permit, let's put it that way, right? So you're applying
Okay.
for a permit under that project, that scope of work, what is it that you're doing? And then with the total value of that, so what she just mentioned with the property owner affidavit, and that goes for both the residential and commercial properties. If I own both the property and the land, then I can pull that then as the property owner. So that's what that's available for you to be able to do. So there's.
Instead of pulling one separate permit for the structural, then we move to the electric, we pull one for the electric. You're saying we should do it by the project and check them all off at one time.
That's what have to happen, because what happens a lot of times, right? So let's use this room here as an example. So this is the room that you're doing the work in. Okay, so there's a plan for you to do, let's say, electrical down the road mentally, right? So the second that you start doing anything or messing with anything electrical, you request your inspection under what would be, let's say you were just doing plumbing work, right, in here. Inspector comes through and, the majority of the prior, contractors, business owners, and, a lot of them 15, 20 years, experience come in and they say, okay, well, see that you're specifically requesting inspection for this, but what about, this and this other work that's ongoing simultaneously to that project? And that's where it comes into, if it's not permitted, then you're looking at potentially stop work order on the project. So that's where just transparency on what you could expect on something like that.
Just to kind of make sure I understand, so say this is an addition and it's not bonds, somebody hired me to do it, it's under the 40,000, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just doing the building. They might hire her for electrical and her for plumbing,
Yeah.
so I don't pull those, they pull, is that correct? And I'm still fine, because it's under the 40,000, is that correct?
Under 4,000. So now, if you're talking about the overall project, it's going to be included. Everything's going to start to add together, right? So that's where we start talking about the $40,000 requirement. So a general contractor at that point taking over for that over $40,000 of work, but then their ability to then subcontract work. So for the electrical, your mechanical, and your plumbing under that same project.
Right, I get that, but the person might decide that they wanna hire somebody else for electrical.
Mm.
How does that work? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They hire me to make the to
Yeah.
build the actual structure, but they say, you know what, I'm gonna use her
I got you.
because I know her.
Yeah, I got you.
She's
Okay.
licensed.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, and you're working with a licensed electrical,
Mhm.
plumbing, mechanical, they'll pull their own permits.
That's what I'm-
They pull their, yeah, so I think, okay, if that answers your question, yeah. So that's exactly what you're hiring me for, right? So if I'm looking for somebody that's licensed, one of the big things, and I'm gonna, that brochure that you got right there,
It's for residential.
yeah. Let me see, let me pull it
So
up, actually.
residential or commercial?
I'll pull it up on the website here as well on this in a second for everybody that's watching online. But let's use this residential permit brochure as an example right now. If we're talking about a licensed contractor, and this is to 100% verify that they are actually licensed because we see this on a daily basis. Somebody comes in, they say, hey, this contractor is doing work on my house. I want to get an update on the project right now, where they're currently at for inspection. Say, okay, no problem. We pull it up, and lo and behold, they're doing work. They were under the assumption that they were working with a licensed general contractor. Well, the second that we look at that, we look in there too and say, okay, look, they put it in as under $40,000 and they're working as an unlicensed contractor. On their end, what's required then for us, if you're saying it's under $40,000, we're looking that you provide an itemized construction cost list. What that list does is it breaks it down. How did you come up to this under $40,000 of work? And that's what we're looking for on our end. And that assists the overall project owner too, let's put it that way. So, but if you're looking to verify if they actually have a license, that's what this section here is for. So every single one of them has a licensing board where you can go in and search to verify that they do have a license, that it's active, and there aren't any issues, because the license board will put it on there too. It'll tell you if the license is suspended, and it'll tell you exactly what for. If there are any issues that they've had in the past, that'll be on there for record as well. So you can check that, and that's a huge resource there. Now, okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
So does the city verify that licensed person is doing the work? Because I'm asking because I see permits pulled,
Mhm.
and the person out there doing the work is not the guy whose name is on the permit.
So for that situation, on our end, what we do is let's put it in Jen Sari's court here, right? So she's reviewing the permit application that's came in. The license matches the board, which is active, and then the permit is issued to that applicant. If it comes down to our attention, so let's say, because this happens, it really does. So the property owner comes in and they say, hey, this person is doing the work, and it's not the licensed, person that initially applied. Well, on our end, we don't have any way to know that until it's brought to our attention, or a request for inspection is done, and then that's identified by inspector on site. So there's ways that ends up happening, but in that situation, that would again be just simply contacting us with the phone number that's listed on here. I'm gonna say 1707, and I'm gonna say option 3, just so you have it and know that that'll come
Is that
directly.
another licensed person?
Yes. Yeah.
Alright,
So
I know that.
unless unless you're a bona fide employee under their company, they're and working with them directly. So in that case, then bring it to our attention, give us a phone call, and we can look at that as well. What ends up happening, let's say that there is an issue and they are doing something they're not supposed to be based on their expectation as a licensed contractor. What we do is we gather all that information, put it together. First of all, the permit is going to be revoked in that case. And if there's a large issue on that project, then we're looking at, let's say that the general contractor was the situation on that one. Stop work order in the entire project until that issue is then resolved. So that's what you can expect on our end. For the licenses themselves, again, just making sure that this is something that it's somebody that you might be working with, or for you even in the future to be aware of the board itself, what they have on there as well. So prior to even starting the search, let's get to that point. If I'm looking for a licensed contractor, I can go to that board website there for, let's say I'm looking for a general contractor within the area. You can put in the zip code and it'll give you a radius search. So let's say I wanted to look within the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles, and I want to see a list of contractors so that I can not only verify that they're licensed, but I can also call them and get some quotes. So that's another way that can be used on there as well. Okay, let me prevent you from going.
It's- An unlicensed contractor can pull a building permit application under 40,000 and needs to submit an itemized cost sheet with their application. The unlicensed contractor cannot pull any trade permits. The trade permits need to be pulled by a state licensed contractor. I get that answered your question earlier. And also, one company can have more than one person under the company. When you look at the licensing board, it could be one company and they can have 3 qualifiers. So whoever signs the application, that's what we look for. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 people. It's just whoever submit that application needs to be there, and if they're not there, then they're not licensed. It needs to be fixed with them. Are you able to scan it?
It says not failed.
I tried it with my phone, and the first 2 times I tried, it didn't work. And the commercial, it's just commercial. No, that's the residential. Yeah. I tried it with my phone, and the first time it didn't work, but then the second one it worked. It was giving her an error.
It worked for me.
Is it working now?
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Okay. While y'all are doing that, I'm going to move to the next slide. All right, cool. So for everybody watching, just so you're aware, we're talking about the brochure. I'll pull that up on the website for the list of resources that we have as well. But on the very back side, if you wanted to have some printouts within the broker's location, what we have on here is a QR. It's just going to take you directly to the e-development portal that we currently use. You go on there, register for an account. And again, that's completely free. And there's a lot of opportunity to just directly search for that subject property that you're working and get the additional information. Here's a simplified project roadmap. What we aim to do with this one is basically give you an overview of what this whole thing is going to look like in a simple graphic. So we start from the submittal through the plan review, expectation there of what North Carolina requires of the plans examiners for their reviews. Inclusion in there, some of the departments external to development services specifically, project review results. Once you get those, what the expectations are for you moving forward. That's moving over to permits issued. Again, we talk about that $40,000 value there, and that's one that you always keep in mind for the project itself. Under there's a requirement, over there's a requirement. Again, over general contractor. Under that, we're looking at itemized construction cost list, and that you are then, if you're using a property owner affidavit, that you are that you own the property and the land itself. Request for inspections. The request for inspections, it used to be over the phone. That was the prior system. So there still is, some folks that call in asking about, I need to schedule an inspection, and simply educating them on how to locate that on the portal, and then by the click of a button, a couple buttons, put in the date that they want and all that stuff. And if there's any notes, that'll go directly to the inspector as well. So then, it goes through all the inspections. You've received your building final and looking at your certificate of occupancy or compliance, depending on the scope of work. So again, that's just a simple glide path there for your project, and that's the entire premise of the project roadmap there. Okay, the public education aspect. So what we're trying to do is a lot more in person, right? So on a monthly basis, we're looking at working with different companies and extending the opportunity for them. So we're doing live training sessions out at City Hall. And that's just simply getting in contact with myself because I'm going to be the one that's putting on the courses for you. And then we try to pull in, depending on the question that you want or the type of information that you want covered. So there's a potential to coordinate with different staff members. Let's say that you wanted to specifically talk about zoning requirements, or you want to talk about the Unified Development Ordinance. Well, we can schedule to have different members of departments and then divisions internally to development services on site for you to, ask those specific questions. Public information permitting sessions. We just did 2 of those in September and October. We had, it was about 150 per session, and it was a really good opportunity to just meet with members, residents of the public, and answer some of those simple questions that I think they've long-term been holding off on, or I wanted to do this on my property, but I wasn't sure what the requirement was. And so just getting to connect with them and saying, hey, look, this is what would be required on our end. We can tell you if you can or can't do it based on, let's say, your parcel size as an example, right? I wanted to do an ADU because that's one of the recent ones we were looking at even before coming over here. So as an example there, but public information sessions. So the Fayetteville Tech Community College, working with the trade school there, before they even come out of school now, to get with them, let them, kind of see how the portal itself works, what they can expect for the application of the permit itself, requirement then of inspections afterwards, and kind of what the process is, and trying to make it a little bit easier to understand and less intimidating, I think, really within the process. These brochures here, they're on our website. Feel free to print those out, keep them on site at your locations, and hand those out to the either buyer or seller at the time, because that's good information for them as well, right? So this is a military community, and that's one thing that we are well aware of. Myself, I'm a retired Army infantry officer, so aware that the military community is in and out. So we're looking at educating the public on an annual basis, because every 1, 2, 3 years we have a new set of residents moving in and purchasing homes and wanting to make updates, changes within the home. And we completely understand that. Congratulations. Just know that there are some requirements, and we're here to assist, trying to make that easy for you. So the brochure's there. Messaging to all residents, that's through the portal. We try to get with the social media team here, put out information on what it is that we're doing. And like I mentioned before, a lot of the feedback that we receive, it's from either homeowners about their experience, and then local business owners. So even after let's say the issuance of CO, what we started to do now is get with some of the local businesses and talk to them about their process, what went right, what were some of the challenges that you had through their project, and then they've put themselves in a position where they're willing to assist some of those that want to start a business in the community, or want to make some changes and renovations within a property, commercially or residential, that they just purchased. Within the system, as of January this year, we had over 7,300 registered users. As of this morning, we're currently at 8,938 users on the e-development portal. So development is growing, and then so is let's say your contractors, subcontractors. So all the trades that are in the system actively working within it, realtors, and we got law firms working on a daily basis. But our staff internally is growing as well. So that's the increase that you're seeing of 1,638 active users within a 10-month period. So there's some information on the efforts and initiatives that we have going on right now within the public education aspect of things. Now, did mention the military impact within the community. So for Fayetteville, we are the 6th largest municipality in North Carolina. Fort Bragg here being the largest U.S. military installation in terms of population, and that's highlighted here, but 53,700 troops, and then about 14,000 civilians working on the post. So some information there, but population roughly of 260,000, and that's including the military families, contractors, retirees, and then just other residents of the community. So it's a large community. It's changing constantly. So that today I might educate y'all sitting here, and then those that have joined us online, and then 6 months down the road, a year down the road, you're now in another state doing good things out there. But then we got a new group in that we want to make sure that we get the same information to. But that's the military then impact within the community here for us. Okay, so that's the slides that I have. What I'm going to switch over to now is going to be the website, and just kind of give you a overview of what that looks like for the e-development portal. So I'm going to log into that. I'm going to go and search. Okay, and then off of this main page, for everybody that's watching online, let me change that. Let's do this share. Okay, yeah, share my screen. That's good. Okay, so for everyone online, I want to verify that you can actually see this. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Now we're sharing. So you should be able to see the screen now. So all I did was go to the City of Fayetteville main website, and I'm starting here for a couple different reasons. As soon as I land on this page, there's some options on here that we've previously discussed, and I'm showing you where they're located now. What we talked about next request, that's going to be here in the top section where you see public record requests. And that's going to come down here. I'm going to go request a city record, and that's going to take us here to that website. So on here again, you're looking at the request of records. Here's the North Carolina general statute information that you end up seeing prior to getting to that website. Now, under the exact same page here, off of the main page, you're going to see permits here to the far right. And I'm going to go ahead and click that, open link in a new tab for you. This thing needs to move. There we go. See if I can get that on here. Okay. Okay, now that took us over to the e-development portal. Now on here, this is where you're going to be applying for permits. This is where you're going to get your plan reviews completed. So for the building, all trades, you're going to look at them, and they're going to be here in this container. And so if you're looking for a building permit or let's just say building permit, because that's going to be the same for residential and then commercial. Coming down here, I'm looking at a residential plan review. And that's what I'd be starting my submittal on. And that's going to be your building permit application. You got your fire applications in here, fire plan review, storage tanks. You see what they have offered there. And then one of the ones that we spoke about previously is going to be that zoning compliance permit. That's going to be your fences and sheds and all that for zoning compliance.
Probably not related to this. Can you get a fire permit at the burn in the city of Fayetteville?
Let me see what they have in here listed. Fire plan review, storage tanks.
Someone told me to collect some tree stumps.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me you could do a 1-day fire permit that let you burn it.
Let me get your contact. I'll get that back to you because that's a fire. Yeah, it's a fire one. I'm gonna get you the right information on that one. So we'll get you that. But the public services on this one. Now this is the engineering side of things. So this is what you can expect to see on this one. Driveway permits is going to be a big one. But we do see a lot. Now, NCAA DOT commercial driveway plan reviews, infrastructure plan reviews. That's some of the ones that we see more frequently. While we're on this page, I'm actually gonna do this. So under forms, this is where we have all of the applications themselves, like the digital copies of them. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. So forms, this is where you can locate all of our resources on here. We talked about the permits required brochure. For everybody watching online, this is where it's found. This is what we're reviewing here in-house. And let's go to the residential one. This is exactly what we're looking at. The QR code here, it'll take you directly to the website. So if you just had this sitting around and I said, hey, look good, scan the back of that, you can go directly to the website, register for an account, and we can just jump right into your submittal right now. So there's the ability for them to do that. This is going to give you an idea of what does and does not, as we mentioned before, require a permit. Our contact information here, if you are going to contact us, you can dial whichever extension you want, but for the permit technician side, if you dial option 3, bless you, dial option 3, that's going to send you directly to the permit technicians. We're a designated call center, so if one line doesn't pick up, it's going to the next one, and someone's going to answer your call. So I'm giving you the option 3 as the designated call center on that. So the contact information on there, our location. We talked about the licensed contractor search there. Instead of taking it word for mouth, which a lot of property owners do, just let me look it up real quick before we start signing any papers and verify that you are licensed. And that's just me doing my due diligence now, right? As a property owner. And so I'm looking at the brochure here. That's kind of what we've put together on that one. And that exists for both residential and commercial properties. On here we have the fee schedule. There's a simplified submittal guide. On this one, I bring this one up and I really do want to show this one because it took about 32-page submittal guide and it turned it into a 2-pager here. And it's just for simplicity reasons, because on how to access it is one thing. And that's going to be the first thing we talk about here. And then, we talked about the training resources that's going to help you get started. It's just a quick start for your projects. The GIS viewer here, if we're talking about the site plan tutorial, but like we mentioned before, the value that it provides for just even identifying planning jurisdiction, property tax records, and then the simple way to follow these steps for what would be a sign permit, zoning compliance, verifying the zoning criteria on the property through a verification letter or a separation check. Temporary uses, special events, it'll cover all that. On the building side of things, we're looking at trades, change of occupancy, change of tenants, temporary certificates of occupancy and stocking certificates. Then your just overall commercial plan review, but 2-pager, easy, and that's a pretty big resource there for anybody that's just doing it for the first time, or just a reminder for when you go to do it another. All the information in here, application forms. I'd take a look at that, but that's where they're stored, and then again that site plan tutorial on there. Let me click on this one. Okay, so I'm gonna sign in. I'm gonna pull up a project just so we can take a look at what that page is going to be for you once you log in. Okay, so for everybody watching, yes, that is my that is my email. You can email, call. I'll put out the number here, and for my direct line, it's 910-433-1671. And happy to try to answer your questions for you, or put you in contact with, whoever it is that the official is on your review cycle or something. Alex, yeah. And that's, yeah, so Alex Magana, again, Development Center Manager. Okay, so we're in now, right? Let's look at a project. I'm just gonna pull up a project in here and see if there's one. There should be one I'm gonna pull up City Hall as the example right now. And let me see if I can find one that's got a CO on it. Let's see. Okay, yeah, here we go. So here's one that the project closed out, which means that everything was completed on it for requirement, but I'm going to use this as the kind of standard template here on what it is that we're looking at. So we talked about project actions, and I'm going to start there. So once I click that, you might see a condensed list on yours. I'm looking at this under my administrator account. But one of the big things that we talked about previously was going to be that ability to start tracking project. And if I want to start tracking this project, I'm just coming to this project action section here, and I'm going to start tracking this project. I click this, it's going to add it into my projects, and that I can show you here in a second. But if I click that, it's going to pull it into my projects I'm tracking. And that's a specific tab under the project section where I can review certain projects, and it'll just give me updates, notifications. But that's a good one right there. If I was going to, I'm not going to go into the activity log too much because it is actually on the left-hand side here. And we'll talk about the toolbar now. So the project toolbar is this gray bar here on the left, and it's going to take you to different sections. So under documents right now, I'm going to show you what we have on this page. The overall page that you're looking at, this is the project dashboard page. And hold on a second, I got some Q&As. Okay, Jennifer, I'm sorry, I just saw all your questions. The realtors register as a company or a homeowner. You can put that in as a company, Jennifer. And so a lot of times, let's talk about the company registration real quick. If I've got a licensed company and I'm going to sign up and I want to make sure that we are seeing all the same projects and submittals, I would end up signing up with my company email at that point, and that they'd be able to put them into that same company, and you'll be able to see your same submittals and track them that way. How many people were in this class online and in person? So the way that it was broken up, Jennifer, is that we have different brokerages that are tuning in from the location. So depending on how many they're actually seated within location that they're at, I'll follow up and try to get an accurate number to answer that one for you. And then the brochures are available online, and we just walk through those ones and cover that. But that's going to be here under the permit applications section here on the city website. So that's where that's currently located. Okay, but the document section. So this is the project dashboard page. Under this project dashboard page, you're going to see type, workflow, jurisdiction, that project number that I mentioned before. That's one that you want to know. And that's going to be, if I typed in this into the search bar, I would find it. If I typed in 433 Hay Street, it's going to pull up hundreds of permits that were pulled under that specific address. So if I want to go directly to this project, I'm going to ask for the project number, and that's what I'm looking for every time. That's what you're typing, or you're copying and putting right into this search bar, and that'll take you directly to this project. So there's no confusion on whether you're looking at the same thing when you're talking to somebody, or you're working with the property owner on a renovation that they're doing. So there's the project number. The posted date, that's gonna be the date of submittal for us, and this can give you a timestamp on there too. You give us the applicant on there. The description. So the description on here is going to give you specifically what it is that's happening under this project, and that's going to be important for the inspector really more than anything. So the inspectors show up and they say, okay, I see that you're doing these two things that you checked off on the application itself, but here's the overall description of what's actually happening on this property or on this project. In this case, project status is closed, and then stage. closed as well, but you're going to end up seeing on here your either approval or denial on the project status and then the stage that it's currently at. Within the application submittal 1 will always be that initial submittal and all those documents that are found in there as well. Those are also in here and dated. I can see when they're actually submitted. This inspections folder here. So if we're looking at the project from what would be a guest account, and I can go into that here in a second, but for the inspections, once they're completed, pass or fail, they're going to show up in this folder here. And that's going to be in the inspections folder. Permits, your permits are going to end up showing up in here. And that's going to be the placards themselves. And then in this case, anything that gets put in here post-approval, which in this case is the electrical permit application. The reason that that permit needs to go through that post-approval after you've been approved by the plans exam is because that post-approval upload goes directly to the permit technicians. And that's part of the overall sequence of this and how it ends up notifying the next phase to commence. So that post-approval upload is legitimately everything that's going to be sent as a notification to the permit technicians.
That's realtors, if they submit the permit as homeowners or company.
Oh, no, that was for the creation of their account. Yeah. Okay. Let me look at that one more time. Make sure I guess. Register. Oh yeah, register as a company. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the document section right there, really. You have any questions for that section there? Okay. If there are any issues within your review cycle, they'll be noted in here. If there is let's say there's an open issue. On this, really what's going to end up happening is you're going to be going through review and resubmit. And prior to even review and resubmitting, you're addressing those open issues. So you're saying, hey, look, I see that there's this issue. I've corrected it, or what the situation is with it. And then you're reviewing and resubmitting at that point. But that's where the open issues are. And then you'll see the closed issues down at the bottom there after they've been reviewed. So review cycle on this one. Okay, the review was due in this case the 14th, and then they end up finishing it October 17th. Okay, so within the timeline, and it was approved. There wasn't any issues on this thing, but some of these projects they'll go through multiple review cycles. In this case, it was just a simple electrical only. They're just replacing burned lug, it looked like. Okay, so here in this section, you're going to see the permits themselves, the current status, so the date and then the expiration. Look at that one real quick. So if they're the date itself, it gets 6 months, right? So from the date that it's issued, you're looking at 6 months. Now, if there's any inspections that occur, that's going to extend that permit for a year from that date of last inspection. And that's something we'll see here in inspections. So in this case, there was none of these inspections required, and the electrical final took place, ended up passing. In this case, let's go into the view report. Okay, here's all the information. It's a pass right now, but let's say it was fail. In the fail instance, you want to see directly from the inspectors not only the technical code where they end up failing and they can reference for correction, but they're also going a step further and including direct photos of where that failure occurred. So what the overall issue was within that requested inspection. If there are multiple inspections in here, this inspection summary is a nice tool as well. It's going to take every single inspection result and it's just going to put it on this page for you. So you're not clicking through these individually like it was at one point in the past. So that inspection summary is nice, nice detail for us. And that's just going to take every single one of those inspection reports and put it on a simple page. You can use that for printing purposes too, just as supporting documents. But that's for the inspection side of things. Notes in here, no notes, but generally what we're putting in there is staff is comments of requirements. So let's say that there's a zoning requirement where they put it in there that it's for awareness on our end when we end up going and reviewing this information. So if I'm looking at this project for the first time and I see some notes in there, I'm gonna look at that just to see what staff had to say on that. If there's any issues, that's what I'm looking at as well. Related records. So if there was a building permit and then your electrical contractor ended up submitting for their own permit, and that on our end, all we end up doing is just case linking them, and that's what you're going to end up seeing in a related record case. So in this case, there's no related records. We didn't link anything on there. All right, so submittal data. The submittal data, this is just an overview of everything that you included for that initial application submittal. So you said this is my address. I've confirmed it. This is the overall the project owner for the project. It's going to go in here for the in this case unlicensed contractor, their information in here, and the electrical contractor, their license information, and yeah, that's where all the contractor information is going to be. The electrical is here, and that's the final at the end of it, the digital signature, and then that permit expiration notice that I covered before.
Digital side, do you still, if the inspector goes out, do you still get the sheet of paper or is it all digital completely?
So which sheet of paper?
They come by and inspect, they checked off.
You do, so it is electronically done, you can obtain it at the portal, but it's also a PDF file, so you can print it. Some people rather just come to our office and pick it up, we can do that, we'll print it for you, but you're able to see it online and also print it yourself.
Like I said, they don't leave one in the house.
Are you talking about like the inspection report itself? No. So
That they came by the little sheet.
no. So the inspection report itself is going to show up in here. So your pass or fail, it'll be sent in an email, but it's also going to be included in here. And that's where you can reference it right here on the view report. So if I click on that one, yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably what you're referencing. For the system here, it's just going to be an email directly to you, and then you can just check the portal for the the information. If it's a pass, I mean, they're not going to put any information in there. But if it's a fail, like I mentioned before, you're going to get a code section, and then the really a photo of what the issues are to be corrected within that inspection request. Emails in here. It's another important one, and what we end up doing on our end a lot of times is just checking in here. Let's say it's either a commercial or residential plan review, and then someone's calling about, I can't access this project, I can't see certain functions, I can't pay. For those issues, what I'm looking at is whoever is requesting the information, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put your email in as an example, right? So I'll start with the email. Let's say that I got Daniel Griffiths on the phone, and I'm saying, oh, look, I didn't get an invitation to this project. So, okay, well, let me check and see if there's any information for you. Well, yeah, I see that there was, and I see that you were inspection assigned, and that was from the requester himself, and that date, and then timestamp, and that's all that I have in here. So again, using it as a reference for invitation, if you can't see certain things in here, it's probably because you weren't invited to that project and given what's referred to as applicant access. So when you're inviting someone to your project, you're granting them the applicant access to come in here and post approval upload or pay fees on a permit that's due for fees. So that's where we're looking at on our end too. Just so you're aware, that's a good place to start there. Is if they can't see something, let me go here in the emails, let me type their name in and see what comes up. If they never received an invitation, that's probably why they can't see it, what they're requesting. Okay, and then the end of it here really is going to be the activity log. So that's going to give you the overall information on the application start date to applications completed, review cycles, the overall closeout, project approval, fees paid at that point, and that's pretty much it for the project itself. We coming up on time? Oh, okay. Yeah.
On the IDT
Mhm.
site, or the portal as homeowners or as a company.
Okay, yeah, it kind of talked about that. So they can do it as a homeowner, but they can also do it under their company specifically. And now if, I wanted to keep everything contained as far as visibility purposes for what's submitted. So let's say my company's doing a renovation and I wanted to have ability to see the projects that were submitted. I want to do that under the company specifically. And that'll just make it easier for them to be able to view all of those projects that they submitted as a company. So nothing preventing you from doing as a homeowner either. But that's the initial account creation. On our end, we're not, it's, you could do either way, whatever makes most sense in your situation. Yeah, yeah, of course. So that's pretty much all we had to cover here. Went through quite a lot of things, and want to make sure that y'all have opportunity, if you want to now, more details on something or a different question that you'd like to discuss. But if not, okay, yeah, it's the same. That's the same question on there. Okay, got it. So you got that taken care of. Okay, yeah. So for everybody, opportunity now.
You said on the GIS website, they were now uploading the premise or something, or I guess they kind of correlate. So are you saying in that small box is gonna say, hey, this portion of the house, like an addition, is gonna have a permit there? Is that what you're saying?
So
You say you got, you said you and another department were working together where the permit will be able to be viewed on GIS?
yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So the very bottom here, you see where it says county map, and this is on the main page of the e-development portal here. Another one of the resources located here, but just click on county map, and that'll take you directly to county GIS. So if I had a property on here, and I'm just going to zoom in on here and just click on something, just as an example. So let's say this is the one I wanted to look at. Well, I'm looking at owner information now. I'm looking at that specific pin. And then, all the acreage, the plat, if it exists in here, it'd be located in here. Let's see the overall, the site address for it, city limits. And that's one thing I was actually gonna, while I have it up, is show you here. You see where it says Fayetteville? You see that color there going all over what would be considered Fayetteville? Anything outside of that, not Fayetteville. So it's just the easiest way to kind of show everybody now as a group collectively. So that, but to what you were asking, I'm gonna go down here to the bottom. You see where it says tax property summary? We click there. Here's the summary for you. So it'll break it down and give you exactly what they have in here for, land values, your deed pages, deed book, plat book and page. Let's see, planning jurisdictions in the city of Fayetteville. Let's see, what else we got in here? Total taxable values. Now let's go to miscellaneous improvements. See that? That's what we're talking about. So when we end up sending is to the county tax office, and that's going to be the COs and then CCs, which are the certificates of occupancy and then compliance. So if you're doing, any improvements to your property, you're going to see them listed here. So that's going to be, somewhere that you can check for that information as well. Let's see, this one doesn't have anything on here listed for prior sales, no notes, photos, what do you got? Sometimes in here you'll see, kind of a layout of the property itself. And so it's just depending on what you're looking at for the for that parcel itself. Deeds, you got some land in here, information and land classes. But this is what we're talking about specifically here for the miscellaneous improvements. Oh, here you go. Yeah, down here at the bottom. And then the addition summary here again, you're gonna end up seeing that. Okay, well, if that's it, and nothing from the group online, then that's it. This concludes the training. We appreciate your time and your willingness to come out and learn something different. So again, we appreciate you all very much. If there's any questions, feel free to contact us. At the numbers provided previously, myself and staff is more than willing to help and answer your questions and make your process for your overall project completion a lot easier. So that's it. And thank you all very much.
Can we get a copy of it?
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, I think it was